Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 321st take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. One of my favorite people. Yes, I say that every week. But this really is one of my favorite people. And I say that every week, but this really is one of my favorite people in the entire cigar industry. And that I
You make
truly
me feel
mean.
very special, my friend.
Absolutely. But before we get to formal introductions of our guests of honor tonight, we have to thank the people that make this show possible. That, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has unveiled, yes, they have unveiled it, the Freestyle Live event pack with a Dominican Republic focus. I feel like we're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight. Drew Estate has introduced a truly disruptive Freestyle Live event featuring a blend that puts the Dominican Republic front and center. On the heels of the historic Pro Cigar event that happens every year in the Dominican Republic, the Freestyle Live event pack features a unique Dominican forward expression made the Drew Estate way at La Gran Fabrica in Esteli, Nicaragua, and is designed with a finesse never seen before in a traditional cigar from Drew Estate. This release is a testament to Drew Estate's dedication to its mission and manifesto, the rebirth of cigars. This cutting-edge expression demonstrates a breakout moment for the soon-to-be 30-year-old firebrand. Drew Estate, recognized around the world for its rich, Maduro-heavy, full-body traditional cigar portfolio, Drew Estate has never been willing to be defined by the past and continues to seek out new boundaries to break in its ongoing journey to deep exploration of premium tobaccos, unique blending styles, and master craftsmanship. Today marks a new chapter for Drew Estate by introducing a silky, smooth blend that places Dominican tobaccos squarely in the spotlight. So check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today for the newest Freestyle Live event pack featuring Dominican forward tobaccos. Yes, Dominican forward tobaccos. Check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today. And tonight's broadcast is live on Facebook as we broadcast almost every Sunday night at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. If you are in the Dominican, it's 11:30 at night. So that's really late. And we are always broadcast live because of our good friends at Foundation Cigars. Foundation Cigars, all about their quality, craftsmanship, and creativeness. Founder Nick Melillo began his career in the cigar industry at age of 18, working in a cigar shop, the Calabash Shop, in his home state of Connecticut. He went on to work for a well-known cigar company, Drew Estate. We just talked about them, where he developed some of the most popular blends. In 2015, he started Foundation Cigar Company to create unique and flavorful cigars that would appeal from everyone, from the novice to the most experienced smoker. And if you are listening to us later on podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you download, subscribe, and review. Tonight's audio broadcast is always brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. And welcome, everybody. This is our 321st take. Done 321 of these. Well, about to be 321. And so we're going to welcome in tonight's guest without further ado. Tonight's guest is brought to you by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united. Yes, sir. It's Mr. Enrique Seijas of Matilde Cigars. Enrique, how you doing tonight?
What is up, my friend? I might say you do this very well. I mean, you got that
It's the coffee.
full intro on video. That coffee, so coffee's fucking great. Please send me some. Now I want some.
Absolutely. Now you need it. Now you need it even more. I was
Fuck, man.
we were talking about this before we went live, and I was like, I already felt bad because there's the time of the year where the Dominican is not just 1 hour ahead, not just two. It's 2 hours ahead of me here in Texas, and I got to do a better job of the timing. And certainly it's even worse now because you just did an entire week at Pro Cigar. So,
That's
uh,
correct.
um, the expression "you're running on fumes" is absolutely true, my friend. So thank you so much for being willing to jump on this show tonight, and especially of all
I'm
nights.
always happy to do it for you, my friend.
I
Nah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. I mean, it's 3 nights of going to bed, 4 a.m. in the morning, waking up early, working and all that kind of stuff, and going back. So yeah, running on fume is kind of correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's going to be a great show. I'm very happy to be here, and it's always amazing talking to you and having a good conversation.
oh, absolutely. I was actually going through, I was going through some photos of us, building the ad for tonight's show, and then I was, listening to previous interviews that you and I have done and stuff. And one of the things I've always liked about you, Enrique, is you're never dressed down. You're always dressed up. You know, everyone talks about Michael Herklotz being like very posh and stuff, but you always look good. You're always dressed really nice. But I have to ask this question. I don't think I've ever seen you wear a tie. Do you even own one?
I own two or three.
Two or three? Because you always
I
get
own enough.
you always get the dress shirt, but it's just always open collar. It's just always very
Yeah, I'm not.
relaxed.
I've never been a fan of tie. It's like having the. It's not like I don't like how I feel with a tie. I put them on. I like how you look with a tie. You always look nice and posh. Nice. Good looking with a tie, right?
Hmm.
But it's having that tie on it. I'm not a fan of it. I like jackets. I like suits without a tie. And when it goes to the tie, I actually prefer a bow tie.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different. You don't use it that much here in the DR. We use the chacabanas with a bow tie and stuff like that. But yeah, not many ties. I mean, I don't get to use them either. I mean,
Yeah.
what I use a tie in a wedding, pro cigar gala,
So you wore a
intro
tie
to
to the
back.
gala?
Yeah, I wear a tie to the gala.
Oh, okay.
It's a formal thing, so you go, you do the full tie thing. So anything that's formal, I have ties for that. But my choice is not to use them.
Yeah. I love bow ties as well, but the beard kind of hides them, so becomes kind of almost pointless for me.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
purpose of the bow tie, right?
yeah, but I was gonna. You asked about you were talking about formal events. Did you when you and Gabby got married? Did you wear a tie?
Yeah, no, I wear what did I wear when I got married? Uh, yeah, it was a tux, full on tux. Not a tie. I wear a bow tie.
Oh, nice.
Full on tux, black on black, like los gemelos, you call it cufflinks and all that kind of crap. So yeah, that
Dappered
was
it,
my wedding. I mean,
dappered it up. Yeah, no, that's what.
uh,
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, noticing it, and it's always usually a white dress shirt. You're always that I've seen you in,
always white.
and then always open collar for my experience at
Yeah,
least. So,
yeah.
um, well, awesome. Well, we're gonna get started here. We've got to get. Unfortunately, you won't be smoking because you said if you start smoking now, you won't go to bed until never. So we definitely want you to go to sleep after this. Um, big day for Matilde Cigars tomorrow, as you were saying. So, I want to go ahead and I'll light up for you. I've got three cigars
Oh,
here.
thank you.
I would like
What
you
you
to
smoking? Let's see.
I would like you to choose my first cigar for me. So I think you'll like all of these. I have a really wonderfully nice aged Matilde Serena. This is from 2020 actually. This is the
Oh wow,
Robusto 5x50. This is from
Turner
2020.
Robusto.
Yeah, I have in another Robusto format. I've got the Exposure number two.
That's number two.
Yeah, and
That's a beautiful cigar right there too.
a cigar that I've been hoarding. I will confess, I have been hoarding for this
I
moment.
saw I saw a brown
Yeah,
band or something
yeah.
somewhere around there,
This
right?
this is
That's what
the
it.
uh, this is the special
Oh, that's a
edition.
special edition.
Hmm.
That's a
So
beautiful cigar.
bought a box sight unseen after its release, and then that's the first one out of the box. And I've been saving it for this show when I was going to have
Well,
you on.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
So so
Thank you
but
very
uh, but
much.
the choice is yours. No pressure. What am I
Oh, I
smoking
have no
tonight?
pressure at all. They're all fucking great cigars. So I mean, you've been hoarding the box of special editions for now, so might as well, light that one up,
Okay,
right?
sounds good. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, I'm really excited about this. Really
Yeah, it's
excited
a
to
great
enjoy this.
cigar. I'm very happy with that, how that came out. Um,
Yeah, we'll be chatting a little bit more about that here in just a second. So let's go ahead and get into this right now.
let's
Um,
do it.
and this is our tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. From the fertile lands of Honduras, George Rico and his family have put together the very best vintages for you. Yes, you, the cigar smoker. From value-based hits like the Corojo number five to the award-winning 20th anniversary to special projects like Zulu Zulu, Gran Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium handcrafted Gran Habano cigars. So, Enrico, I said that we were going to talk. We talked a little bit about this before we went live, and I said we are going to talk about this a little bit on the show. But I do want to. We are going to chat a little bit about the late great Jose Sejas tonight. But We are announcing tonight that we will be doing a more formal celebration of the life of that great man on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition here
Appreciate that, my
in a
friend.
couple of months. So you'll obviously be on that. We're thrilled. Coop and I will be thrilled to host you that night, and we'll be celebrating the life of your father. But first and foremost, I guess formally we have to say live. We have to definitely express our condolences
Thank
and
you.
for a man who also lost his father last year as well. When I saw the passing of your father, it particularly because we are so close too,
Mhm.
it really it it really hit a lot harder than other passings in the industry for me, and I'm just so sorry for your loss. And I
Thank you,
mean,
my
he
friend.
was truly a great man, and I know he was a great father to you. So I'm sorry.
Yes, he was. Thank you. I appreciate it. We've talked about this before. I always talked about it openly. My dad had Parkinson's, and it was pretty much evolved to a point where I believe and I like to believe he's in a better place now. He's more comfortable. Sure, he's working with tobacco or smoking cigars and playing golf. That I'm 100% certain that he is doing wherever he is. But I really do appreciate it this day, and I'm glad he's resting and at peace. So it's what we wish for all our parents.
Yeah. Same with mine. My hope is that your dad is introducing my dad to cigars because we didn't actually share a lot of cigars. A lot of my friends don't know that, but
Hmm.
my father and I didn't really smoke cigars together. My dad smoked cigarettes most of his life on and off.
Hmm.
And but the cigar thing we never really had that traditional father and son moment. One of my biggest
But did
regrets.
he smoke cigars or
No,
he never smoked cigars, period?
not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think when by the time that I had picked it up, when I was a young adult, um, he was off cigarettes at that time, and I didn't want him to get back into it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
always something people are afraid of. My brother-in-law before he started smoking cigars, he smoked cigarettes. He smoked like a pack and a half a day or something like that. So after he was done with cigarettes, it took him about a year and a half to 2 years before he started smoking cigars. Now he smokes, two or three cigars a day. But that was he was afraid of was going back into smoking cigarettes.
mhm.
But in his case, just kept with cigars, kept true to not smoking cigarettes. Also because he stopped smoking cigarettes because it was a promise to his mother, late mother. So I guess also deters him from doing it. But same thing. It took him about a year and a half to 2 years before he said, I'm gonna light up a cigar and start smoking cigars. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that would be really great if Jose Sejas and my dad were having a cigar together. That'd be really fantastic.
That'd be really
It's
cool.
a great
Like
it's a
him,
great thought.
handing him in a Serena. Here, light this up.
I love it.
Great
That'd
cigar
be
to
great.
start.
That'd be great. That would be great. Um
100%, man.
um well, I get asked this quite a bit. And I think it's like one of those trivial questions, but I think it's also like the right question too. Like what I know there's always a lot of things that you miss, a lot of things I miss about him. I mean, what what's the thing that you miss the most or miss most often when you think about your dad?
Just presence. I mean, presence. Seeing. My dad had one thing. He smoked cigars constantly, obviously, and he loved half smoked cigars. So you like smoking cigars around the house, and there were ashtrays, and you like pick up the cigars and light him up again when he came back from the for wherever he was doing. So that's something that you don't see anymore. I haven't seen anymore in a while. But at the end of the game, because was just basically the presence of the way he looked at us. It came to a point during Parkinson's was so advanced, which is more it was more expressions than conversations. So every time I used to go see him almost every day. So every time I went with my kids, like with Gonzalo or Rodrigo, the expressions in his face of happiness was something always that I have that imprinted in in my goals. And the funny part is that's that's when Parkinson's had progressed and he was in his worst stage. You
Yeah.
still have those great memories of those expressions. How
Yeah.
much he loved. Like my son was about to fall down, he tried to grab him, even though he couldn't. So that kind of things I do miss a lot. And shit, working with him. So learning from my dad while I was working with was something beautiful. It was a fucking headache. Like every son and father relationship in any businesses. And my dad was a perfectionist, and he was always trying to break every single process down, putting it back up at any point, even if the process was working. Um, so that was always a headache, but you learn, and that's how you learn, and that's how you kept on learning, and that's what I try to do every day. But yeah, it's right now what I actually like what I have ingrained every time I get go to my mother's house or my parents' house is that that face that face of happiness of I see you, I'm happy. That's something that it's you miss.
Yeah. I
How about you?
yeah, it's funny you mentioned about expressions. The one image I can't get out of my head is is one of his last expressions. So like he you know I haven't really detailed this much out to my audience, but like he to make a long story short, he fell on his 80th birthday. Um broke his hip, surgery, complication, had to have another surgery, more complication, and it just devolved down into um needing to be put on a ventilator at some point just because he wasn't breathing right and he as he also suffered at this he had for a number of years had suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia and so
Hmm.
and as an expression more good days than bad he was still had somewhat good days than bad and stuff like that. But because his
Hmm.
mind had gone so bad that they tried taking him off the vent several times, but his mind forgot what it was like to breathe on its own.
Oh
So
wow,
they had to keep putting him back on. And it just got to the point where he had lost so much strength and cognitively he just wasn't there and it just
hmm,
the tough decision had to be made by my mother and support her 100%. But so the day we went to say goodbye, there just happened to be my dad was a lover of dogs, all animals, but dogs particularly. They had a therapy dog walking around the hospital floor that day in the ICU, and they were like, "Hey, would you like them to see?" I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be really cool. That would be really cool." So they brought the dog in, and they sat my father up, and the expression on his face, I mean, just
it's a beautiful thing,
oh
huh?
God, just absolute joy. And he was so overjoyed to see that dog.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and it was great to have that final moment. And it's the image that's still it's kind of burned in my head and I'll always remember that. So
It's a
um
beautiful image to have.
mhm.
Expression.
But well, I'm looking forward to more formally sitting down with Coop and talking about your
Hmm.
father's life and celebrating that in all its glory because it deserves it. So
Thank you, my
um
friend. Very much appreciate
so
that.
but just once again, just thank you for sharing those thoughts and then just again, sorry for your loss. And
Thank you.
but there's been a lot of um celebration of him too. We with Matilde, something that you guys have been working on a long time was getting his, as I like to call it, getting his name back.
Yeah.
Was being able to use the Jose Seijas name on a
Hmm.
cigar, and that was announced shortly after, right? That was that shortly after his passing. You,
It was announced shortly after, like right after, and it wasn't planned. Actually, I delayed it a little bit. I delayed it a little bit. I delayed the announcement a little bit to make sure that people didn't think it was being announced because he passed away. I think we talked about it. I think it was with Cooper with you. We talked about it in our last show that I was working on something for my father. This is a project that's been going on for about 3 years now. 3 years? 3 years of I've had the packaging ready for a while. It just took me a while to get the cigar correct to where I believed it was supposed to have my dad's name.
mm-hmm.
I didn't have that click.
Oh,
Smoke
so
different blends and stuff like.
it was for the project was taking a long time. You because I know there was legal issues at hand. So that had been resolved, and you had
Yeah, yeah,
had
yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Okay.
Once I started the project, I got the green light from my dad's former employer that we could use the name. It was something. It's something to honor your dad. I mean, and what I wanted to do, it was honor my dad in life. I wanted to make sure we had a project with his name under our company to pay homage to honor my dad. It's good thank. It was my thank you project.
Hmm.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for introducing me to the cigar industry. Thank you for everything you did for the cigar industry. Thank you for everything you did for the people in the cigar industry. And I couldn't find a better way to pay homage to my dad. So, he's always had three things. My dad's life revolved about three things. It was just his family. So my mother was in the pinnacle. My mom was uh shit. My mom they had 50 years of marriage, like 5 days before my dad passed away. And before that, they've been together like for 60 years. They've known each other since they were 12, right?
Oh my gosh,
So it's family. So
that's
it's my
crazy.
mother, my sister, my brother, and I. So he didn't spend much time with us because he worked like a beast. Pero every single time we spent it was quality time. So I've always chosen quality over quantity, right? It was his family. So that's where the name came in. I said, I want a cigar that has my dad's name. I want a cigar that has Seijas, Jose Seijas. So I created this brand called Para Jose Seijas, Para honrar a mi padre, which basically is called for Jose Seijas in honor of my dad, right? And then it was tobacco. My dad, I'm second generation in the cigar industry. So my dad did a lot in his tenure or in his life in the cigar industry, but my dad is a family is my grandfather is a dentist and a politician. My grandmother was a stay-at-home wife, right?
Mhm.
And my dad was an industrial engineer. He got hired sheer coincidence. So he literally entered the cigar industry as a coincidence. Think about it. We're from La Romana, from the southeast, where there's mostly tourism, right?
Right.
Tobacco, Dominican Republic is in the north. But God had plans for my dad, and he got hired as an industrial engineer and started this his first job, which became his only job and his biggest passion. So tobacco, I wanted to make sure that the cigar was correct, represented my dad correctly, and quality and flavor and strength and all of the above. I'm pretty sure if it would have been another project, it would have been out earlier. But it was a very sentimental, emotional project for me. There's always a lot of doubt over this being up. So all that went on, and then giving back. So my dad. One of the things that really attracted me to this industry, to working in the industry, was working with my daddy. The way he worked with people, the way he interacted with his employees, always thinking about them. How could he make their life better? There came the petrol, there came the pneumatic presses, there came savings and loans, there came a furniture company. So it wasn't only cigars and tobacco; it was also helping the people and giving back. It came to points where, sometimes I remember this very interesting case. There was a cooperative developed for like savings and loans for employees, and this guy didn't qualify in the bank for a loan, didn't qualify in the cooperative for a loan, but my dad gave it to him,
Oh wow.
and I'm like, so he didn't give him the loan, but he vouched. He was like he was what do you call it, the warranty. So if he defaulted, my dad would pay for it, right? Um, and I asked him, so I'm confused. So if two financial entities rejected, and you're still risking your money, and I was like, "Coño, Dad, why?" He's like, "Because I can." Simple as that.
Hmm.
Simple. Because I can. I have an employee, which is a valued employee, and also somebody I've known for a long time. I have the ability to help him without risking much. So because I can, he helped. So that was his way. So the project started as the name, and the name had to come with the tobacco. Now, with that having Parkinson's, And my old assistant has Parkinson's. We were fortunate enough in our family and my or because of my dad that we had financial resources to have the best doctors for Parkinson's, so be able to get the medicine that we needed all the time. So we had everything. So money wasn't an issue when it came to what my dad was suffering, right?
Mhm.
But Parkinson's is a very expensive disease, and it's a totally disease for the caretakers, but it's also a very expensive disease economically because of the medicine, and mostly in the Dominican Republic. An example is like, your main L-Dopa a box here costs you like 9,000 pesos, which is about 150, 160 bucks.
Mhm.
Well, in Spain, it's nine
Jesus.
euros. So initially it was a thing about the name, my dad having a cigar with his name and tobacco. It had to be a great, great cigar, right? To pay respect to the tradition that my dad always took. And then it took a twist. Then you say, Coño, my dad is it's three. It's family, tobacco, and giving back. So we decided to give back. So with the Parkinson's, basically I call this my break even project. And it's not break even, but you make sure that you give back. So we got in contact with the Parkinson's Foundation here in the Dominican Republic, and we will be giving or donating part of the proceeds of the Para Jose Seijas for the works of Parkinson's foundations, for medicine, for rent, for anything that they need. So for every box that we sell, we I'm looking into donating at least $10 for every box that we sell
Oh, wow.
towards a Parkinson's foundation in the Dominican Republic, because I believe that would have been the exactly correct way to honor my dad, because he loved tobacco, he loved his family, but helping was something that came for him. It was natural. So it was crazy how how he looked after his employees, other people, o sea, anybody,
Mhm.
and he never trying to get something back from them. He just helped because he could. He was fortunate. He was happy. He was fulfilled. So he helped. He wanted to make other people happy and fulfilled.
Mhm.
So that's where the third part of this project came in. So a couple of months before my dad got sicker, I got in touch with the Parkinson's Institution. We sat down with the director, seeing what they needed. So basically, we're going to use that money to be able to buy like the main medicines, source that main medicines for him to be able to give to the person. Right now, they help about 425 Parkinson patients in the DR. So hopefully, with the donations, they can help and be a little bit more and be better. So that's the project is three pillars: our name, my dad's name, create tobacco, and then giving back, which is, I think, the only way and the best way I could think of paying homage and honoring my dad.
That's uh that's beautiful. It it's funny. It reminded me a little bit of part of my dad's eulogy I was talking about. We didn't have um quite the opposite. Um a little bit. We didn't grow up with a lot. But my father always gave
Hmm.
to those that were even less. And I remember there was we went to church every Sunday, and every Sunday they would set out coffee and donuts, and there was a little basket that you could donate change to. It was like it wasn't required, but you put a few coins or a couple dollars in, and
Hmm.
uh, had your way with the refreshments or whatever. And there was this the best way I can describe it is he was a slightly troubled young man. He wasn't a troublemaker per se. He just, you know, wasn't he wasn't very mainstream. There was, I guess he was probably somewhere on the spectrum is kind of where it was.
Hmm.
Just wasn't very social, very antisocial, but would always come
He had
around on
his own
Sunday.
pace.
He had his own pace. Yeah, he'd come around. he would come around and every Sunday, of course, why not? Because there was donuts. So like this kid loved the donuts and stuff. And when I say kid, he was a teenager. He was probably a little couple years older than me at the time when this happened. And I remember it. And this was my dad to a T, like all the time. I would ask him for, hey, can I have a Coke or something like that? He would reach into his pocket and he always carried loose change. He would reach into his pocket, not that anyone carries cash anymore. He would reach and he would pull out a a handful of change. Usually it was almost what was his entire pocket or whatever. And he's like, just yeah, just take what you need. And I would always grab the two quarters or whatever, and that was it. Um, so he did the same thing with this young man. He's like, hey, sir, would you mind sparing me a couple coins so I could get a coffee and a donut? And my dad, typical fashion, just pulls out his handful of change and says, take what you need. And this kid, this is gonna be lost for people on the podcast, but he takes his hand through my tip of my dad's hand and like scrapes every penny off of that into his hand, taking every. And my dad's eyes were like flying, like were like saucers, just like okay, that just happened. And I remember I was so pissed. I was like so aghast by this. And the kid had walked off by this. I watched. I was like, Dad, can you believe that? I was so angry. And at that point, my dad had a couple of seconds to kind of compose himself back to his just his normal state, and he's like, "Well, son, I guess he just needed it more than me." And that was it. That was my dad. Sounds like your dad was the
A
same
lot
way,
of
just giving,
similarities.
yeah, giving hearts, man. Um, I mean, the projects. I mean, on one hand, what great timing, right, to honor your father, and then on the other
Mhm.
hand, unfortunately he won't be around to enjoy it. The but I think it's such an important project that it finally is finally coming to fruition. So I know it worked. I know it probably worked you tirelessly. What I'm not going to ask something so silly as to why it was so important for you to do this. But what do you think this kind of project shows shows the industry?
You got to honor your where you come from. Right? For me, it was honoring and thanking. It's being thankful. This product is a way of me saying thank you, not in the way, well, in the way I would do it, but also if you want to be thankful and you're thankful for something that people taught you, is that you act as they teach you. But in my case, Viejo, I try to follow my dad's footsteps as much as possible, and basically, Viejo, that's what I'm doing with this project.
Mhm.
Honoring our industry with great tobacco, honoring my father and my family, and then honoring his wishes, which was giving back. I think our industry is an industry of tradition. It's an industry, Viejo, of family. It's industry is tradition. And I believe that a lot of cigar makers give back. They give back either in the public eye or privately. The cigar factories are like big families, and you're always going to see it happens everywhere in a big factory, in a small factory, in a huge factory. You're always going to have tobacco makers that need something, and they're always and the owners of the factory. Because one of the cool things about our industry is that there's very few industries. I was talking about this in Pro Cigar, where the CEO of the company, the owner of the company, is so accessible not only for the employees, but for consumers, for retailers, for customers. You think about it. You
Hmm.
don't see you don't see Tim Cook every day, right?
Yeah.
You're Apple fan, you don't see Tim Cook, but you can see Carlitos. Carlitos will go visit the store, right? Or you would have seen my dad, or you've seen Lito, or you would have seen Hochi. And it's the same thing with employees at the factory. The employees at the factory, they have access to the owners, to the presidents, to the vice presidents, to the directors, right?
Hmm.
And in my experience, every single factory where you go to, people give back. So the owners give back, and I think it's something beautiful about our industry. So what this product might tell you about the industry is exactly what I'm doing. So we do give back. We believe in helping. We're thankful. So our industry, I believe, as Dominican Republic, we're very thankful in our industry, and it's an industry of tradition. and you have to honor those that came before you. I mean, it doesn't matter if you agree with whatever they did or not. You just honor the people that came before you because they've built the industry to where we are right now. In my case, I'm here because of my dad. In my case, I've learned a lot from my dad. I've learned a lot from Hochi and from other people. Um, but it's an industry of tradition, so you also have to pay homage to those that came before you. And that's what this project is for me.
You mentioned Hochi, and then obviously I know you work with Hostos as well, and
Hmm.
those are two really interesting relationships. One, Hochi is a lifelong friend of your father's,
Hmm.
kind of a mentor to you too in that similar vein. But
Hmm.
Hostos is a contemporary of you. Like you both are
Hmm.
younger men, and
Two
I've
different
heard
relationships, yeah.
too, yeah, and I've heard you talk about this before in other interviews. You talk about the trust that's there with these two men
Hmm.
specifically, and that's why they manufacture cigars for you. So with this
Hmm.
project specifically, like, I mean, that's okay. So you shoulder the responsibility of like I have to get this
Hmm.
right, but then it's also picking the right partner. Not that Hochi couldn't have done
Hmm.
just as good of a job, but
Hmm.
what was it about? What was it about the situation with Hostos that made that the right place for the Para Jose Sejas?
It was just how it played out. It played out that way. We're working with blends and stuff like that. And one thing that I've always talked about, like when I'm working with Hochi, I don't go outside of the wheelhouse of tobaccos that he has. When I work with Osos, we do go outside of wheelhouse so we can experiment a little bit more. Because Hochi has such a big inventory of aged tobacco, it makes no sense to do it, right? With Osos, doesn't have that much of a huge inventory of tobacco, so like getting the wrapper or getting different types of fillers and stuff like that does help. But honestly, it's not like, I was thinking, I want to do this in Isla, not in Palma or anything like
Right,
that.
right, right. Of course, yeah.
Este, with my essence is that anything that I do that's a limited productions, how I've divided my productions is anything that I do that's core. I've always done in Tabacalera Palma. Hence you have the Serena Madura, the Quadrata, the Renacer and the Oscura. You know, everything, all those productions come from Tabacalera Palma. And anything that I do, which is batch productions or something that might be limited, I've always gravitated towards Tabacalera La Isla. So in Tabacalera La Isla, you have limit exposure number one, which is my first project. Limit exposure number two, you have Edición Limitada America, which is something, a brand that I have that's not that well known. We don't distribute it in the States still, but we have it here in the Dominican Republic. Actually, we had it with my cigar pack, our friends at my cigar pack, Alex Perez. That's how the brand started. Um, we have the Para Jose Seijas. We're working limit exposure number three. So anything that we do that is smaller productions, batch productions, it is not. I'm not saying that also can't handle because he obviously can handle large productions, but simply because how the way everything played out and how I've been working is that anything that has to be something limited, I always gravitate towards Ostos, and basically our core stuff I always do with Hochi.
So with that makes total sense. With Para Jose Cejas, the blend is Ecuadorian wrapper, and then there's Dominican binders and fillers.
Yep.
Was that had to have been it? The Dominican core of that had to be intentional, right? Or was it
Oh yeah,
again?
100%.
Okay,
My initial was it go back. What I was looking for initially was creating un puro dominicano,
yeah.
100% Dominican, right? I didn't get there. So I want to say we use as much Dominican as possible. So we did 100% Dominican, has four different Dominican fillers, Dominican binder, and then the Habano Ecuadorian wrapper. But yeah, I wanted to make sure it was as Dominican as possible. Is that something that, dude, my dad always believed that Dominican and Nicaraguan were the great blends. He worked with a lot of Dominican Nicaraguans like your salt and pepper. I believe the same way. But he was a true fan of Dominican tobacco, and we are from the Dominican Republic. Our company's from the Dominican Republic. So you're gonna pay homage to a Dominican guy that loved Dominican tobacco, that made tobacco, made cigars in the Dominican Republic. You got to use Dominican tobacco, and that's what I did. And it came out to be such a beautiful blend, Bear. It's medium plus in strength, a lot of flavors, a lot of aromas. It doesn't bore, it changes. It came out to be, it makes your mouth salivate. just covers. It's such a beautiful balance, just makes the mouth salivate. You got some beautiful sweetness in the cigar. I believe it's well, shit. I remember when I was in my office, I lit it up. I was like, this is it. It was like a right. It was like a click. You know when you fall in love, like yep, click. I was it with this cigar. I was like, yep, this is my dad's cigar. Um, so yeah, 100% Dominican Bud the wrapper.
Nice. Yeah, you talked about obviously paying homage to your dad, obviously with this project, but in the cigar that I'm smoking, the Matilde Special Edition, um, was also a nod to your dad. The first use of Peruvian tobacco, which you can absolutely taste on the retrohale of this cigar. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. It's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it after waiting so much.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful blend, and the aroma. Speaking of the aroma is fantastic. Really well balanced. The retrohale is gorgeous. You can really pick up that Peruvian tobacco on the retro. That floral citrus is just unmistakable for me
Thank you.
with Peruvian tobacco. So,
So yeah, with the special edition, this project started as something personal. It was the cigar I wanted to make for myself for events and stuff like that. And I wanted to use two tobaccos specifically. It was filler, where the filler was Peruvian, Pelo de Oro, and with the wrapper was Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper. Why? My dad has or had the Seijas signature blend. Seijas signature blend was composed of Dominican, Nicaraguan, Peruvian, Olor binder, and then the Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper. I've used all of the above, but those two. So I said, you know what? I want to make a cigar that has these two components. I want to have something like that. Started developing the cigar, viejo. Came to a point where I said, you know what? Fuck it. I can't not sell it. So I can't. I want to share with the public. I want to share with the consumers, not only those that go to an event, but with everybody. And that's when we opened it to say, we're going to do this as a special project. So that's what special edition came along. So with the special edition projects, besides that one, we're going to have more coming out. There are always going to be projects with a meaning or for a reasoning behind it.
mhm.
It might be the tobacco, it might be a brand, it might be something. But in this case, I was using those two tobaccos that my dad used in Seijas signature. It might be at another point where, I don't know, shooting Viejo up in the air. Adrian's dad, Enrico's dad is Manuel. He's growing tobacco now, right? Manuel Peralta. We might have a cigar that's going to be developed around some tobacco that he grew. So it's always going to have a reason behind the blend and the cigar itself. And that's what the special edition products are going to be like. Not limited, just special editions, just the reasoning and the story behind that project. I want it to have some sort of a meaning to me or to somebody.
Gotcha.
So that's for the special editions. So that's my emotional link towards the cigar. It has some type of an emotional link towards a cigar, I would say, because
So,
of what it's been used.
so will this blend not be returning and it'll be another special edition with another special meaning, or will it be like a second special edition with a different meaning?
That blend will be returning. We're actually doing a second production of that blend because we sold out completely in PCA in the US market, and I'm fortunate to have a lot of export partners. So we're doing a second production run for all our export partners, and you always really have a couple of boxes left over when you do a production. But that blend is not something that's going to be limited forever. But we will be developing other blends within the special editions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to get I mean, this is mostly
It's
just
not
a
a
self.
limited production.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's mostly a selfish question to be if I'm gonna be able to get it again.
Yeah, I've always, it might not be great commercially, but I've always been, a huge advocate of if I make a blend, I want to make sure, people can get it at some other point in life. That's where the limited exposures come in, right? You do a small batch production, age it for a long time, you sell it, right?
Mhm.
Once they're out, so once they run out in your retail shop, it's okay. You don't have to buy two or three boxes if you love it, because once it runs out, you'll be able to get it again next year, right? Or the year after.
Hmm.
So that's something that's not going to be available. It's not going to be available all the time. Will you be able to get it at some other point in Matilda's lifetime, right? I think no, the only full on limited release that we've ever done was the Renacer Lancero. It was a 40 ring gauge by 7, 40 box count because it was my dad's 40th year in the industry. That was 2014. So that's the only cigar that people ask me, will he ever do it again? I'm like, nope. That Renacer in that size is not coming out again, period. Because that was the celebration of my dad's 40th year in the industry. And it was a true limited code. So then we do limited exposure, we do special editions, but we haven't done a true limited release after that, or just one time release, because they're limited in quantities, right?
So what I just did some math in my head. Was this kind of a celebration of for his 50 years?
Not really. It was
Oh,
something that was I guess I was feeling sentimental when we wanted creating a new blend, and I said I love the Seijas signature cigar. Actually, I was talking about this in another podcast. I was up in Danbury, Connecticut, and Buttheads, they have such a huge inventory of aged cigars. And I went to visit Kevin, and I look down and I see a box, a leather burgundy box. I'm like, are those his signatures? And he's like, yeah, yeah. And they were the Perfecto Figurados, like little love story ones. And I was like, oh, how many do you have left? And he almost had a box left. And I go again, I'm like, what else do you have? So I went to the store and I bought 2 boxes of Seijas signature, a Toro box. I bought that box. I found a box of the Mi Dominicana, the Pigtail Lancero,
oh
a
wow.
box of that and these are all from the original production. So these are all beho like the Seijas signature. You can divide the years because initially it came out with a burgundy leather box, like a leather bound box, and then it was burgundy, but it was wood. Um, so we had that, the Mi Dominicana, and then I found from our production at Nacer, the box 427 of the Corona. So that was like the first 8,000 cigars that we packed, right?
Oh wow.
In our factory in La Romana. So I go there to visit a retail partner to sell them on Matilde, right? And I end up buying more shit than I sold. I'm like, yep, don't worry about that. Just give me those 2 boxes, give me that, dot, 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 dot. And it was very cool because what I did was when my dad passed away in his funeral, everybody celebrates differently, right? So that day, I smoked all my dad's cigars. I smoked El Renacer, like the original Renacer that he blended and manufactured, the Mi Dominicana by Jose Seijas, and the Seijas signature. That was my day of smoke for that time, which is pretty cool how it played out. That I
Yeah.
bought those cigars out of impulse. But going back towards it, when the story comes, it's not about the funeral, but it's more about the Seijas signature. When I'm traveling, anytime I find Seijas signatures, I buy them because they're that good. So I was like, you know what? I want to use some components of the Seijas signature, and that's where this the Peruvian and the Ecuadorian Sumatran came in. It was something that was supposed to be for me, so I wanted to use tobaccos that I really, really enjoyed.
There's a couple of questions that I want to come back to. We're gonna break up the everything with our first fun segment here in just a second, but there's a couple of things I want to come back to. I want to come back to the number on the box, and then also just the idea of finding gems like that, um that kind of that have more, have that kind of a personal meaning as well too. So
Hmm.
that's really cool. So let's go ahead and break things up here. We're gonna start break up things with our first fun segment, um, which is always our presidential trivia segment, which is brought to you by United Cigars. Ready to live the United lifestyle? Launch your palate, voyage with United Cigars. You can celebrate 250 years of experience with the Red Anchor or experience elegance with La Giana Havana. Rekindle the spirit of 1776 and light up a firecracker and light up the skies. Then celebrate honor, pride, and accomplishment with a gold star. Or jet set the globe and capture luxury with Atabey, Byron, Alfonso, and Bandolero. Don't just smoke. Smoke United. United Cigars. Since 1901, United we smoke. So Jose Enrique, you might remember that this is our presidential trivia segment. So I usually try to mold it somewhat after the guests and everything. We did some trivia last time with presidents in the Dominican Republic, so I just kind of threw that one away. It occurred to me that I don't really have a lot of trivia around our current president, Donald Trump, and I was like, you know what? Like we're gonna throw some fun facts about our current president around and kind of chat about
Let's do
that for
it.
a second. So, the first question is true or false. Did President Donald Trump ever attend military school? True or false?
False.
It's actually true.
Oh,
I know this is kind of hard to imagine, but apparently he was not a well-behaved child. And by age of
really?
13, yeah, by age 13,
Really?
I can't imagine him talking back to his father or anything. No. At age 13, he was sent away by his father to the New York Military Academy, and
Huh.
he went there for 5 years. Found some cool little stats about him. This one was pretty cool for me. He was given the captain's award in baseball in 1964, and he attended for 5 years. And 4 of them, he was actually an honor cadet, which is academically is like their
Oh,
highest
wow.
standard. So for 4 years, he received the honor cadet award, and he was the captain's award in baseball in '64. And apparently, was quite the athlete. Competed in bowling, softball, tennis, um, baseball, soccer, a couple of number of other sports that he competed
Look
in.
at that shit.
Yeah,
Overachiever.
yeah. I had no idea that he was a former athlete. Like that was kind of cool for me to kind of learn a little bit about.
That's 100% new for me.
Yeah. Did you play any like sports in growing up as a kid? Was it baseball
Yeah,
or soccer?
I was tennis and golf.
Tennis, that's right. I remember talking
I
about
was
that. Okay.
tennis and golf. Yeah, I was
Okay.
mostly tennis, golf with my dad,
Okay.
but I was gravitated towards anything that has a paddle.
What was it about tennis that really kind of like that it just made sense for you?
Just active. I love to run. I mean, golfing is great. I enjoyed it and all. I still enjoy it. It's calming, but the tennis, there's a thing about the tennis that you don't have with golf. Golf, you think and then you focus. Tennis, you have to be focused completely. So you just block everything out. Like nowadays, like I try to do boxing. I don't
Oh,
box, but
wow.
I have like somebody that helps me like throw punches, especially because you're 100% concentrated in breathing. Same thing with tennis. You have to be 100% focused on the ball and and running and breathing. So it just blocks everything out. I think you get in the zone.
Wait, let's go
I
back to the
and
boxing
like
thing. Like, all right, like have you
oh,
done
I'm not a
any like
boxer. I'm
okay.
not a no, fuck that
So
shit.
just so
No,
just
Tony
so
does
just
that
where
shit.
Oh, I knew that. Yeah, I knew Tony did.
Yeah.
Phil Zangi
Actually,
does boxing
nah, nah,
too.
nah.
But yeah.
I'm not gonna fuck up my face.
It's
This is
the
my
best.
moneymaker.
For sure, Gabby would
No,
appreciate that
I
too.
have
That's good.
it's about blowing steam for me.
Yeah.
Getting somebody punching the punching bag and all that shit. But Tony really got I'm not sure if he's still into that much, but when I was living in Santiago, he was like really into it. Like, got in the ring and everything.
That's crazy.
But Tony's like 6'7". I mean, who's
I
gonna
know,
fucking
yeah,
reach him?
his reach is out
His
to the
reach is from here to fucking New York.
yeah, no kidding. That would be terrifying. Oh my gosh. That's funny. The thing about tennis that I always I going back to my dad was not a tennis player. I didn't really play much tennis either. But he got into it for a little bit when I was a young teenager, just randomly. Like he played a lot of golf too.
Mhm.
And he was always an athlete. My dad, like he grew up playing sports and stuff, played minor league baseball, but got into tennis randomly for a few years. And like we went out to the court and we would knock around and stuff like that. Um and my dad made friends wherever he went and everything. So like he knew all the coaches at my high school just because. And he's like, hey, Bear's coming becoming quite the tennis player, which I wasn't. Let's just put it out there, right? And so the tennis coach was like, "Oh
He
yeah, well,
just loved you very well.
yeah, he really did. Yeah, that was yeah. So um, and so my dad even said, like, but the tennis coach, tennis wasn't the most popular sport in our school or everything, and so the coach was like, well, hey, we've got a tournament coming up, and we need someone to we need another body essentially, and so like I got thrown into a mixed doubles, so I partnered with
How did that
luck
go?
with oh, it was great because I got partnered with the our top girl tennis player, and she was fantastic, so I
Okay,
didn't really have to do much. So,
that's good.
but my claim to fame is we won the tournament and I hit the winning shot. So, but it was a perfect setup by her. She made an incredible shot. Our opponent basically threw it up in the air for me and I just slammed it back into the
Smack that
corner. Yeah.
motherfucker.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. So
Nah, tennis is a
that
fun sport, man.
yeah, it is. It was yeah, that was a fun experience, as I like to say. I was not, but I
Mhm.
yeah, terrible player and stuff. I thought my son was going to get into it for a while because he was really fascinated because we would every Saturday we would take walks to the local elementary school and there was a beautiful tennis court there that was always being used recreational by people and they were always out there playing and he was just always into it. Super into it. And then tried to get him to and he's just like, "No, not really." And so, but like I thought there was going to be something there.
He just like the skirts.
Well, they were mostly
That's it.
men, but yeah, that's fine.
Well, in that case, no.
Yeah, but that's cool. All right, so gonna get back to the trivia here. So this one's multiple choice. So uh Donald Trump is considered to be the wealthiest person in history to ever take office as president in the United States. So who was second? Okay. Was it A, George W. Bush, B, Ronald Reagan, C, Harry Truman, or D, John F. Kennedy?
Kennedy.
That's correct. John F. Kennedy was
Good.
considered to be the second wealthiest person to ever become president. So yeah, his dad had gotten all that money from the Prohibition days, man. He was running.
I was about to say it's good. He had a good business going on.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, his dad was a whiskey runner, whiskey importer during Prohibition and stuff. Obviously, an illegal operation at the time, but it basically funded his family's fortune for the next, obvious,
So,
generations to come. So pretty crazy. Which I think is also very funny because now his great grandson is now the health and the health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So, um, but fun stuff, fun trivia for sure.
yeah.
All right. Well, that was our presidential trivia segment brought to you by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united. So Enrique, I wanted to go back to a couple of things we were talking about. You had mentioned um, just the philosophy around having limited cigars available at certain times, and there's the whole philosophy behind the exposures, right? Because
Hmm.
you know Matilde made it very clear very on. Oh, you had established some core lines, but you were not going to be this company that was wanting to or able to produce the what's new every single year.
Hmm.
And so your response to that was developing of the exposure series.
Hmm.
Um, was this something you kind of just stumbled on, or was it kind of an idea out of necessity because you guys had made this decision to not always continue to pump out stuff, or
I think every market in every industry is dynamic, and as you know, our industry, the what's new is something that had been leading the industry for a while. So when it comes to Matilde, we only had our core. We had nothing that was limited, nothing that was new. So up until 2016, we never came out with anything new until the limited exposures. And unfortunately, you have to have something to keep in top of mind. So once you have your brand, which is out there, and let's say your Padrones or your Fuentes, maybe they don't because everything's, they're like the top of mind brands. But you always have to create something, I believe, nowadays to be able to keep in top of mind and giving something different. So our solution was limited exposures or the type of product that we do, where we still believe in core, where you will always get that blend at some certain point. But what we're doing is that we're producing in smaller quantities and launching in certain times. So that was our solution. Let's say I always say it's limited in production, but not in time. We limit the quantities that we're releasing and then, wait the next year and release it. And it's always two. Like, for example, now we're in the process of developing number three. So number one's not going to be, so there's going to be a skip. So now you're skipping in a year when it comes to productions. And that's how we came along the limit exposure program. That was a program I was supposed to build. Is saying, okay, we have something limited, but you're going to get it. I believe in core. I believe in it's a way to grow organically within the store and within the consumer base. Personally, as a consumer, I want to make sure that if I fall in love with a cigar, I can get it every time
Hmm.
because I like it. And I think the worst part in the world is, as a consumer, you smoke something which you loved and then you can't get it. Same thing for the store. People fall in love with a limited cigar and you put them onto that limited cigar. And then after the limited cigar is gone, you have to put them onto something else. It creates even extra work for the store. So anything that we do in Matilde is always going to go back to highlight the core, our core production, which is what we want to grow constantly with. Our limited exposure program has been a great program. It's worked very well. It's a special editions. It's a different type of concept. So we're working on integrating new things within Matilde, but always going back and focusing with the core, which what you will be able to smoke consistently every day, year after year. And that's basically our goal when it comes to that.
So you were before we took the break, you were talking about when you went up to Buttheads and were able to procure like some of these really aged Seijas signatures and everything. And you know, so talking about core as a philosophy and everything. And I heard you talk in a previous interview about how your dad used to say and how that making the cigar is the fun part, but it's making the same cigar over and over again, which is the work.
Yeah, that's
You
the
know,
hard part. Yeah.
it's the consist
Hmm.
because the consistency of the product. You
Hmm.
know, with smoking those Seijas signatures, which I know you really love, just as its whole, like when you picked up that box of what was it, 467 of Coronas? It was the
427, 427.
427. What was it like to smoke that cigar and then pick up a Renancer that was more current and taste the
That was great.
consistency?
Oh, it's beautiful. I was about to say, yeah, I did try it. I did try it. You always gonna have a differentiation. I mean, only just you think about it just because of the time. That's a cigar that was 10 years old, right?
Hmm.
Compared to
True.
what I said now, which is just completed. But basically, what we look for when it comes to consistency of a cigar is that it has that same brand profile, right? It's gonna take you back to the first renacer that you smoked, and I believed it was achieved. I smoked the first renacer, the 427 renacer, and then you go and you smoke the Corona. There's always going to be a different. There's going to be a variation of the blend, but you find the nuances. You find that it's got the same strength profile. It's got the same flavor profile as the one that we manufactured, 10 years ago, which is the goal of the cigar manufacturer. At the end of the day, viejo, no cigar is going to be the same. You can't replicate the same blend, even the same production, because it's handmade. It's a natural leaf. You're not really measuring weight. You're not saying I'm going to put 10 grams of piloto ligero and 15 grams of other. You don't, right? It's one leaf, one leaf, one leaf. There's always going to be variations. Besides that, we don't have vintages. So you basically have the tobaccos. You might have a season that was dry, a wet season. So that
Yeah.
changes the tobacco itself, right? But it did hold on. So the blend did hold on for 10 years. You have your slight variations, but it held on. So you smoke one, you smoke the other, you say, oh yeah, this is Renacer, which is a very cool thing.
Yeah. I I really appreciated an interview that you gave recently, or maybe it might have been a year or two ago, but where you were talking about vintages specifically, and you were talking about, and I really appreciated this because I've heard, and I was very guilty of this very early on in my career of in cigars, of comparing the cigar industry to the wine industry. And that's really wrong. And you're the first person that I've ever, first important person I've ever heard really say how
Well, thank you for
that's
calling me important.
yeah, how that's not true at all. They're not they're very incomparable because you talked about how vintages and you talked about how like, oh, that's a good year. That's not a good year. In wine, and you can't do that with Renancero as an example, right? You can't pick
You don't
up
do that shit with
yeah,
cigars.
you can't pick up a 2019 box of Renancero and say, "Oh, that was a bad year. Sorry."
That
You
was a
know,
crappy year, and the
yeah,
cigar's not gonna be that great, you know?
yeah, because then you lose the consumer at that point.
Exactly. No, 100%. I mean, you have the grape, you have the fermentation process, you have all of that. That's what it got compared to. It's a classic, old school way of manufacturing cigars. It still goes to that tradition of also doing wine. But when it comes to the actual comparison, is what I've always said. Dude, we don't have vintages. We don't have like, 2019 cigar, 2020 cigar, like from the same vineyard or for the same crop. We use
Mhm.
blends of tobacco leaves to create a blend profile.
Mhm.
And that's what you look for.
Right.
Same way with wines, you have the same vineyard, right? And you have the different crops which you use to make that certain wine. And when it comes to the blended stuff, yeah, maybe you can work with that, different stuff. But when it comes like to your pure on wines, they have vintages. They always say, that Dom Perignon from 21 is the best one, or the Dom Perignon from this, or this wine from this
Mhm.
vintage was rated 96, but the other one was rated 90. And it comes out, we do have production years. You have products that have production years. You have products that are limited. But in our case, we don't have that luxury of saying, "Oh no, this is it was a wet season, so it's not great vintage." No, it's not.
Right.
It's renacer, it's serena, it's oscura, it's cuadrata, it's limited exposure. Number one, number two is para Jose Seijas. It is that. That's what you're looking for.
Right. And
So,
there's been really trying um and very in my opinion, as a general whole, very unsuccessful attempts at doing the vintages in cigars. Like a lot of companies will come out with like limited releases and they'll put the year on them, right?
mhm.
And that helps a little bit, you know. And I think there's been, and when I say unsuccessful as a whole, I mean like as a generality, it's been unsuccessful. There's companies and manufacturers that do it well. For example, George Rico from Gran Habano he's very transparent about the fact that he releases things because vintage is different. He wants that kind of consistency. He wants you to have that experience every time you have that cigar. And so he doesn't, very similar to your exposure, he doesn't release things at a regular clip sometimes on some of his
Mhm.
projects, right?
Mhm.
And so it and that in that vein, it's pretty successful. But I think that as a general rule, the comparing cigars to the wine industry and even putting years on it just doesn't work as well because you can say,
Well,
well, like,
when it comes to the year of cigars, you have the production year, right?
yeah,
So you do and it comes to a point where, even when it comes, you might say, I'm going to do a cigar that has tobaccos and all the tobaccos that I'm going to use are from year 98, right? That might be a reason to put the year, say, vintage, 98 vintage, all the tobaccos I use here are from 98. It's a 98 crop from
hmm
different parts of the world or from different parts of the country, right?
hmm
But then what I guess the industry mostly uses, it's not about the crop, but about when you produce the cigar or
hmm
you create the blend. Like limited exposure for me, it's not when I produce a cigar, but when the blend was released. LE number one is 2021. LE number two is 2022. LE number three is going to be 2024. So it's when I manufactured the blend for the first time, right? But I believe in cigar production, it's the year of the production. You have the limited editions, right? You have the 24, 23, 25. It might sometimes it's not even the same blend. It's just, Juan de los Palote 2021. That's my limited Juan de los Palote production. Then you have Juan de los Palote 2022. It might be a totally different blend by production from 2022. So I think you can use years to match the production year, right?
Hmm.
But you can't really match the production vintage because you're using all types of tobacco. You might be able to do it, right?
Hmm.
But I think mostly we use them to match the production year or the year the blend was developed.
Yeah. I think the like I think the most one of the most recent successful attempts of it is Michael Herklots with this Variotego. Um, he's got the Elegancia and the Generoso, and every year he does a release of it, and he there's a foot band 21, 22, etc. Right,
Exactly.
and and there's an expectation of that, of that difference and stuff. But like to the point that I was kind of getting to, coming back to full circle to you picking up that box of 427, 427th box ever produced of Renancer Corona, is that when you talk about core, the consistency has to be there and it has to be unmatched. And like that's
Hmm.
the really hard thing. And um and that was the whole reason of partnering with Hochi, like you talked about. His inventory of tobaccos allows you to have that kind of consistency year after year and everything.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, so like long term, this is a question I've never asked a manufacturer because you're certainly not the only manufacturer that partners with people. But long term, like we because your core belief is in and I'm not saying like Hochi is anywhere near retirement or anything like that, even though his son has been doing a lot more for him these days. But like long term, like what not that you would ever move from the Tabacula to Palma or anything like that, but what does that look like long term in terms of core and consistency? Like if something happened, Hochi retires, De Palma no longer like ceases to exist or everything like that. Like
That motherfucker's never gonna retire. He loves what he does.
fair enough, fair enough.
And then Jose Manuel is there too. So
Right,
it's a full on
exactly.
company, right?
Right, right,
No,
yeah.
but you know what? Eh, I haven't thought of that as you're asking, but so if it comes along, you have to either find a place where you can match it. You can match the tobaccos, or try to make the blend as true as possible, or discontinue and start different blends. Este, but it's not gonna happen. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
No, I think
Uh,
you're smart in the partnerships that you develop, like because like you said, like there's a whole family there. There's and it's the inventory speaks for itself.
mhm,
The consistency kind of speaks for itself year over year and everything like that. And then, but you allow you have this experimental side with Hostos, which is really, really unique.
mhm,
And two, where
mhm,
you can kind of have fun and be a little bit more experimental without
mhm.
messing with the core, which is
I can't tell you, it would really suck if it happened.
sure.
But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. That won't
Yeah.
be an issue.
I think it's just an interesting question. Again, it's not
It
like
is.
unique. It's not unique to you, Enrique. Like you're not the only person
No,
that
100%.
partners with factories.
If
So
you if you're working at your partner as a factory as a private label, you always have that thing, behind you, right? You are depending on the manufacturing of somebody else.
right.
So what if they run out of tobacco? What if the factory burns down like it happened to Henderson Bella? What if, right?
Hmm.
There's always those what ifs. There's advantages, disadvantages of not having your own manufacturing facility. Um, but those are things, Bill, that you work with as time goes by. So it's not like coach is gonna say one day, "Oh, I'm retiring. We're closing down." But
Hmm.
if something's gonna happen, and that's why you partner with the people that you can trust, right? You say, "Hey, Enrique, mate, I'm thinking of retiring. So I think we're gonna be doing this for the next, 3 to 4 years. Okay, you're gonna be doing this. Okay, okay, let's work with it. Okay, let's talk about tobaccos. Let's talk about where goes. Let's talk about moving the production somewhere else. So you work with it. It's not like somebody's gonna. I mean, if you get in a fight, you're pretty much fucked, right? But it's not like it's going to be like from one day to another.
Right.
So you always have time to move, to evolve, to match your blends, and to make it work. As I said, at the end of the game, what you're looking for is having that cigar that reminds you of the Serena, that reminds you of the last Renaissance that you smoked. They're never going to be the same. And no cigar, you find, I mean, you smoke cigars at the same time, right?
Hmm.
Or you smoke cigars like one after the other. You're always going to find one has a little bit more pepper, or maybe the other one's had a little bit of sweetness, but it will remind you. The let's use two examples. I like to use the example of a painter, right? Take a painter, two canvases, same paint, same face. I want to do a portrait of bear. There's a portrait on one side, repeat it on the other side. From far away, it's going to be the same bear, same portrait, exactly the same. When you go close into it, there's going to be variations of colors. There's going to be variations of color strokes. But when you look at it, you're smoking it from outside, or you're looking at it like from far away. It's the same product. It's the
Yeah.
same final product. The same thing with cigars. The other one that I loved is one that Michael uses, Michael Herclox, right? He uses Broadway. When was Cat developed? When was Cat's first launch? I don't know when it was, but I know it was like, it was more than 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So, I'm sure that a lot of the dancers, initial dancers are died, right? They
Yeah.
recast it,
Sure.
right? So they recast it. You still get the same Cats experience. It might be a little, this guy might do, the thing a little bit different, that the tone of voice of one of the singers might be different, right? But it's still the Cats experience.
Sure.
So I think it's the same thing with cigars in manufacturing. So you're always going to have to change and play, but as long as that consumer, your end consumer, gets that same smoking experience, the ones that they're looking for when they're smoking one of our cigars, we've done our job. Period.
You hear that? Awesome. Well, Enrique, I really, really appreciate the conversation tonight and everything. We've got a few questions, fun questions to wrap up the evening. But I really do appreciate this amazing conversation and catching up with you. It's
My
been great.
pleasure, brother.
So so let's go ahead into our next segment, um which is our brought to you by Artista Cigars. You're not the only one that started. Which is Artista Cigars, which is truly the last hidden gem in the Dominican Republic. With nearly 70 years of rolling cigars, the family behind Artista believes in honoring their long-held traditions of handmade artistry. Artista's blends include factory-exclusive tobaccos and front marks for every budget. In fact, Artista Cigars has one of the most varied portfolios in the market today. There's something for everyone at Artista Cigars. Now, if you're like me and you can never choose a cigar, Artista Cigars is kind of a breath of fresh air because I can take something from any box of Artista, and I know whatever they're offering can give me something truly special. So this segment's pretty easy. Enrique, it's meant to be kind of like lightning round. I'm going to give you a choice of two things, and it's kind of open ended. Your interpretation of it, however you want to. And you just pick one. So here we go. Wanted to focus a little bit on Dominican Republic. So, in the light of that, so here we go. La Romana or Punta Cana?
Nowadays, Punta Cana. When I was there, La Romana.
Okay.
I am from La Romana.
I was wondering what your answer would be, considering I know that's your
Uh,
hometown. So,
so
uh,
here's the thing.
go ahead.
Here's the thing. I was born and raised in La Romana. I have kids now. So La Roma, Punta Cana right now is at the stage where La Romana was where when I was growing up, which was a beautiful life, and it would be a life I would love to give to my kids. Hence, that's why I say I would like if you tell me you have to move somewhere, I would move to Punta Cana instead of La Romana.
All right. Well, in a similar question, Santiago or Santo Domingo?
Santiago. No brainer.
No brainer. What's
No brainer.
what's the big reason for the no brainer there?
Well, Santiago's got all the tobacco in the world, right? Offices are there. But besides that, I hate fucking traffic. I hate it. I hate
Yes.
it. So I don't like city. I don't like the city, viejo. When I'm here in the city, I go around in a small Vespa that I have to avoid traffic. Um, so yeah,
Nice.
I'm a, I'm originally from La Romana, viejo. I'm from a small town, and I've always been in small towns. I lived in Santiago. I lived in La Romana. I lived in Punta Cana. When I went to the States, I lived in Rochester. I lived in Ithaca and Tompkins, for God's sakes. So it's always been small places with no traffic. I mean, I like quiet, no traffic places. Santo Domingo has a lot of traffic. And that's
And
basically it. I have a lot of friends here. I love my friends, Viejo. I have a good social life. But you make, if you make me choose in Jarabacoa, I'll go to fucking Jarabacoa in the mountains and drive down every day.
there you go. All right. So food, la
Ooh,
bandera or sancocho.
la bandera o sancocho, la bandera. I love sancocho, but sancocho is like, for days where it's rainy and stuff like that. La bandera, arroz, habichuela y carne y plátano maduro, that's our everyday meal. That's literally what I eat every day.
So for the uninitiated who people, these are two what people would consider national dishes of the Dominican
Yeah.
Republic. So people who don't know what la bandera is, go ahead and tell us a little bit about it.
La bandera, basically, you have to have white rice, beans, some sort of protein, mostly pork or chicken, and plátano maduro, like plátanos, plantains, mashed plantains, ripe plantains. So that's la bandera dominicana, ¿verdad? Then we have los cuatro golpes, salami, queso frito, yuca y huevo. That's for our breakfast. We have eggs, mashed plantains, salami, fried salami, and fried cheese, right? And when it comes to the sancocho, it's our typical stew. It's a seven meat stew. So you have sausages, you have pork, you have chicken, you have beef in there, you have all types of root vegetables in there. And it's a very heavy, hefty stew, which is great when it's raining, or when you're sick, or you're hungry, or you want to eat stew. The beautiful thing about the sancocho is that you make a lot of it, you freeze that motherfucker, and you can eat it viejo, 3 months later, you can still eat it. It's a beautiful thing. But those are our two main dishes, la bandera, arroz, habichuela y carne, and sancocho.
I was having this discussion about sancocho the other day, because sancocho is very universal in the Caribbean, South American, and Latin American countries, but they're all different.
Yeah.
Like there's all different variations, but it's essentially like a soup, like you said. And there's the Dominican
Hmm.
sancocho, which is very protein forward, like
Yep.
like you said, with all these different types of meats. I was in Puerto Rico last year, and Puerto Rico sancocho is still very meat forward, but it's all seafood. It's like a chowder, or we would call
Oh,
it chowder in
really?
the States. Yeah, I found that
Huh.
really interesting. Yeah, they were like, yeah, because there was yeah, it had shrimp, it had scallop, and then other pieces of
That's
fish and
interesting.
stuff. Yeah, it was good. It was very good. And
How were
then
you
like
feeling afterward?
I I felt good. No, I felt great. It was fantastic. It was gorgeous. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so back to the next question. So Saga or Noah?
Saga. You got the Tony Hawk, my friend, and you can smoke. I like my Tony Hawk, the atmosphere, people. Saga.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Yeah, so these are for people who don't know, these are two of the more popular restaurants in the Dominican Republic. Saga is known for its tomahawk steak, uh, cooked on the salt block,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
it's epic. I've had it. It's fantastic.
Oh, it's a beautiful place.
Haven't been to Noah. Have you been to Noah before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very good, just not Saga.
Noah's got great food. It's very on point, viejo. I just prefer Saga. It's
Gotcha.
not like it's not that one's bad and the other one's good. It's just like same thing. It's
Yeah.
preference. You got the you got the Tomahawk. You got also Saga. You can actually because it's owned by Los Reyes. It's very smoker friendly. You have the outside area. They always have a DJ on there, so it's got kind of a different atmosphere to Noah. Noah's got more of a restaurant atmosphere most of the time, where Saga has a hey, nice. And you're tired. You can't be yawning. I'm supposed to be yawning. So,
Hey,
so yeah, I would go
I
Saga.
got a newborn. Give me a little bit of grace. So, and that's why I got the coffee. We're fine.
So, are you thinking about when he's gonna wake up? Soon, though.
Yeah, a little bit. It'll be all right.
Uh,
Just to feed and put him back to sleep. He'll be fine. So,
yeah, all good.
all right. You were talking about different atmospheres, so this is definitely different. But this is I
Yeah.
wanted to hear your preference on this. PCA or Pro Cigar?
but you're comparing like
What
I don't know,
it's open
apples with
ended.
fucking potatoes.
I know it's open ended though. Like what is like your definition? I get your definition of a good time. Do you have a better time at PCA or do you have a better time at Pro Cigar?
I have a great time both ways.
Yeah.
I don't work that much at Pro Cigar. I work a lot more at PCA. I can tell you that, but I get to see a lot more friends, a lot more retailers. I get to, that's a tough one. I like them both very much. But I would definitely say if you haven't been to Pro Cigar, you have to come. It's the best cigar event ever.
That's what I
Um,
hear from everybody. Like I hear great
it
things about
is.
Puro Sabor, but like Pro Cigar is like,
We're on point, man.
yeah,
And this year was even better. So the white party, it's in the monument in Santiago. It was the only part that was done there. Everybody dressed in white in a beautiful white monument. It's an amazing time. Great people, top-notch food, top-notch liquor, a lot of
nice.
dancing. So shit, I'd say fucking Pro Cigar down, hands on. I mean, thinking about it, right? It's for fun, Pro Cigar, 100%.
I love the cigar industry because it's the only industry in the world at this time that could ever get away with throwing a party called the White Party and not get in trouble. All right. So this is very specific to the morning. Cuadrada or oscuro?
Oh, that's interesting. Cuadrada Oscura. Huh.
In the morning, specifically.
In the morning. I would go with the. Huh. I do the Cuadrada.
Well, a little more spice, a little more pick me up.
Yeah. But my go-to in the morning with a cup of coffee is serena, but you didn't put
Yeah,
that in there, so I do the Cuadrada,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah. I like the Cuadrada a lot. Beautiful balance. Great with coffee.
I asked this because actually earlier this week, one morning I had a cuadrada and I had an oscuro the following morning. So
Okay. Well, what's your go-to?
I would
What
say
will be yours?
I enjoyed the
Cuadrada?
cuadrada. I really did. I thought it would
Okay.
be the oscuro. I thought like like a little bit more, just a little bit more body, which is I drink black
Mm-hmm.
coffee, so like I've kind of compared the two a little bit
Mm-hmm.
comparable, but
You,
I
you like
like the
it black,
spice.
don't you, huh?
Hmm. I like coffee
Oh, I'm
black.
just saying.
All right, last one. Here we go. You've only manufactured cigars in the Dominican Republic, but if you went outside the country, would you prefer to manufacture in Nicaragua or Honduras?
Nicaragua. In Nicaragua.
Awesome. Any particular reason?
I like Nicaraguan tobacco, so if I'm gonna manufacture outside of my country, might as well we go where the tobacco's at.
There you, there you go. Easy enough. All right. Well, that was our Artista Cigar segment. We're moving on to our next segment of the evening, which is Everybody Eats, brought to you by Postania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. So we were talking a little bit about Sancocho and La Banera a minute ago. So
Hmm.
I like to ask this. There's a series of questions in this one. I always pick one. So, um, what uh, what is the best experience that you've had eating with other people?
Hmm. Shit, I can't remember the name of the steakhouse. I will remember later on. I think it's Hank's in Las Vegas.
Okay,
It's outside of the strip. It's in Henderson. And shit, my memory blew. But the experience of food, the steak was like what I do when I go to Vegas is I work, right?
of course.
Like a dog. I don't eat. I usually have breakfast. I don't eat lunch. I don't stop. And then I do dinners. And usually dinners I do steakhouses. So I go to every single steakhouse I can think of in Vegas. And I have a friend that from college that lived there, which I did not know. And I was telling him about this, what I do. And I usually steakhouse in the strip. Like, no, 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 no. You got to go to this steakhouse. I think it's Hank's. I gotta double check. About 45 minutes away from the strip. Oh my God. The food was unbelievable. Service was great. Food was great. Just beautiful, pristine steak, and just unbelievable.
Who do you
So
remember
I
who
would
you were with?
say, oh yeah, I was with Diego, Corey Frisbee, Adrian Acosta, my friend. Uh, I'm missing two people. It was a group of like 8 people.
Okay, awesome. Cool. What did you, was there, other than the steak, was there anything like a side dish that was pretty memorable about it?
There was a carpaccio was very good. The potatoes were it wasn't like very complicated food. It was just great. You know, steaks and potatoes, steaks and vegetables, grilled vegetables were great. We had some sausages that were good. The carpaccio was good. Um the I think mushrooms were good too. Like everything was good. But it wasn't like overly complex, like, a very elaborate restaurant. It was just like on point seasoning, on point steaks, and also mac and cheese. Mac and
Hmm.
cheese was very good as well. But yeah, it was a great time. And service, I mean, my God, great.
I in Vegas, especially because we work long days as well too. Like, we're walking around all the trade show floor and doing, interviewing with everybody and stuff. And so like we're pretty exhausted just as much as you are. Um, but like there's something about a steak in Vegas after a PCA trade show day that just hits different. It just
It's
does.
very filling.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So,
And then you have the other side of the world. Then you have El Gorditos, Taquitos El Gordito,
hmm,
which is fucking great tacos.
yeah,
You go from spending $80 on a steak to spending $5 on tacos. It's still fucking great.
yeah, it's good.
Um, but yeah, I would say that was a very good experience because I'm at a Hank's Steakhouse. Yep, that's it.
There you go. Hank's in Henderson. Check it out. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So this is our next segment. We've got one more question after this one, and that'll conclude our night here, Enrique, and you can get some sleep. But our next segment is brought to you
Who
by
needs sleep?
Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these are made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. So, Enrique, you've been asked this question before, but I thought it'd be in, interesting to shake it up a little bit. But if just to refresh your mind on the concept, I usually ask my guests, this is about a cigar that, you smoked by yourself. We spend a lot of time smoking together, smoking in groups, smoking in communities. And that's what cigar smoking is really special about it. But every so often we get to smoke by ourselves, and it's kind of that moment. I want to go back to that moment that you were talking about where it clicked. You're like, this is the Para Jose Sejas.
Hmm.
I want to kind of peel back the layers on that moment for you. This is a project that you've been working on for such a long time. It had to be perfect. It had to be your dad's cigar. In that moment that it clicked, what was going through your mind?
I was just it was. I mean, before I was like, give it a shot. But I've already tried it before. I've been smoking the blend for a while. It was like literally like sheer happiness. It's like fuck yeah, I got it. This is it. This is it. I mean, the way my mouth salivated, the sweetness of the tobacco, that dried fruit, it just took me to, I see, this is what my dad loved. This is what my dad loves, and this is it. So it was a mixed emotions, you know. I got the blend that I was looking for. It took me back to what my dad loved smoking. So it was like a lot of happiness. I mean, there's no, and then it was like, oh shit, let's do it. And yeah, just pure happiness when it came to that. Like
But
finally, got it.
I I have to imagine, especially on projects that you work for a long time, and I'm sure it's varied by project, right?
Hmm.
From everything from Sorena to Arenacer, I'm sure it was very special because that was the first one. and particularly this one because how close it was to your heart and everything. I imagine that it's different every time, right? Like every time you're like, I'm working on a blend, I'm going for this particular result, and then when it finally clicks and you finally find it, it's got to be different each time, right?
Oh, 100%. But what like you're working on, let's say now you're working on a certain target, but a certain target profile strength, right? When with the Para Jose Seijas, I was working obviously a targeted profile and culture, but it was a feeling too.
Hmm.
So this is an emotional product. I mean, all your products are emotional, right? But it's more calculated, let's say. Saying, I am missing a cigar. I'm missing my box press medium plus cigar. You have the cuadrata. I need viejo, a Maduro, which is medium under. That's your sitting a Maduro. I want a cigar that is mild enough for beginners, but had enough character like for you and me. That's a Serena. So you're looking for those. You're looking for something specific. When it came to the Para Jose Seijas, you're looking for a good cigar, but you had to have that click. It was like falling in love, and you don't always not every project is like that. Because this project was so emotional for me. It had I had to have that feeling where not only the cigar was great, but it took me to what my dad loved in the cigar.
Hmm.
So that's why the feeling when we finally said this is it was more emotional, was more of happiness because I clicked and I clicked with my dad and the level of tobacco. So I say, Coño, this is it. This is the cigar that's gonna honor my dad because it's a cigar that I am 100% sure he would love, hands down.
Hmm. All right, that's awesome.
So, but yeah, every product is different. Like for the special edition, it was looking for the concept. It was like, yeah, I love it. You always have that say, yeah, this is it. You have happiness. In this case, it was more emotional happiness, actual happiness. Like we found what we were looking for.
I'm still smoking it, by the way. I can't put it down. It's fantastic. I'm
Oh,
smoking
I
this.
think it's a
Yeah,
beautiful cigar.
I'm smoking this down all
I'm
the
I'm a little bit biased, but I think they don't suck.
way. Should make that the tagline on the box there. All right, so here we come to the last question of the night, Enrique. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk a little bit,
My
especially
pleasure,
after
man.
an
Thank you for
exhausting
having me.
week. A big year for Matilde Cigars, both you know, business wise, personal wise, and really excited about what 2025 is going to bring for you. So,
Thank you.
but I always like to throw a little bit of a twist on this last question because it's obvious it's the curveball segment. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust curveball segment. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Saka's been knocking them out of the park. Count them up, guys. 10 consecutive years in the consensus top three. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So there was a point in your career. I've long this has been my nickname for your family for the long time. It's the you were the first family of the Dominican Republic because
Hmm.
you have all your roots are the Dominican. You are Dominican family. You're not Cuban or from anywhere else or everything. Yes, you're second generation, so it's not as deep as some of these multi-generational families. But you are the first
Hmm.
family of the Dominican Republic. That's what I've called you guys. But for a time,
Hmm.
your father was transferred or moved to the Canary Islands to do work in
Yep.
tobacco and cigars.
Hmm.
So, in this alternate reality, if he had stayed in the Canary Islands, would you be in cigars
Who the fuck knows? I guess so. He was working at a cigar company.
today? So you think you always would have followed in your father's footsteps, like no matter what? That was
The
Enrique's
thing
destiny.
the thing is that it's what I've always said. I love tobacco. I love the industry. But what I could have worked via in banking. I could have worked in lumber. I had a lot of options because of the tobacco and because of what I love, but most importantly because of my dad. I started working. I got into it. It was the attraction of learning from him that got me into
Mhm.
getting this business full time. it was not only learning from him for tobacco wise, but people wise, personal wise, honesty wise. I've known very few people as honest as my dad, for God's sakes. Sometimes to as determined, right? Um, but I think I would have followed his footsteps in any industry that he would have been in, because I was following him, not the industry. You fall in love with the industry. I mean, I grew up in the industry.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, I haven't seen anything different when it comes to the industry, because I used to, as a kid, I used to be in a cigar factory all the time, rollerblading
Yeah.
and, fucking
Yeah. I've heard you
around.
talk about that. Yeah.
But learning from him was my north. It was like, it was what I was looking to do. So shit, my dad would have been in fucking lumber. I guess I would have been in lumber, because you would be the same person, same character, same personality, also same temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that I follow my dad. I didn't follow the industry. I fell in love with the industry. I love the industry, but I follow my dad,
I
which
want
made me his favorite fucking son.
I often wonder, this industry has been very unique and it's, and transient in a lot of ways. There's a lot of still things that call it home, right? Cuba still very much has an industry, obviously, but there's a reason why everyone moved. Your family's history isn't a part of that. But like
Hmm.
the Canary Islands, Jamaica, they were very much a part of that next generation of cigar production,
Hmm.
after Cuba, the Dominican Republic, obviously, and then in the last 25, 30 years, Nicaragua has really burst onto the scenes with
Hmm.
a lot of stuff. Um, I'm always fascinated, like what's next? Does does Brazil become the next thing, right? The next place
Hmm.
or something like that, Um, if that becomes the next place, do we lose another one of these major producing countries? The way that Canary Islands and Jamaica have kind of gone by the wayside. Like, so I'm kind of
Hmm.
fascinated to see what like the next 30 years produces in terms of like
Hmm.
geography. Um, but um, it's always interesting to see and everything. So, well, that will wrap up our show for the evening. Enrique, I thank you so much again for sitting down with me after an exhausting week and
Thank you
everything.
for
And
having me, my
so
friend. It's a
I,
pleasure.
I know you got a big day tomorrow, so I'm going to let you go, and we're going to say good evening to and adieu to our audience as we always do. We really do appreciate all the likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. You can always tune in every Sunday, almost every night.
Press subscribe right here.
Yeah, subscribe
So you put
9:30 Central,
it's
10:30
here or
Eastern,
here.
or 11:30. It's one of these corners. Just hit the So if you're tuning into us on YouTube later on, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the bell. That way you get notified every time. But all of our broadcasts are always, our video broadcasts are always brought to you by Foundation Cigars. Nick Melillo is a well-known cigar maker in the premium cigar industry. He is the founder and owner of Foundation Cigars, which produces a range of high-quality, handcrafted cigars. His values have always steadfast been quality, consistency, balance, and flavor. Talked a lot about that tonight. And if you are
Mhm.
listening to us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you download, subscribe, and review. If you are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but hit the button again to resubscribe. That helps my numbers actually, and allows me to get great guests like Enrique at 11:30 at night. I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise because it's not like
I
Enrique
do it
works.
at any point.
Oh, okay. Well,
For
um,
you, my friend, anytime.
appreciate that. Um, tonight's audio broadcast is courtesy of Grand Habano Cigars, honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. And so, without further ado, we'll bid adieu to take 321. This is our 321st take. Done 321 of these. It's crazy.
That's a
Um,
lot, man.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's a lot. So, this was Enrique. This is your fourth time on the show. I know there will be a
Huh?
fifth time, and it'll be fantastic. But it's always great to see you, my friend. I'll see you in a couple of
Likewise.
months here at PCA in New Orleans, where we're going to change it up a little bit and see each other in a different place and time. But it'll be fantastic. looking forward to that. So for
I'm
all
looking
those,
forward for my last. I'm looking forward for my last interview.
we
Last
changed
day
it
of
up
the
this
show.
year. We changed it up
I
this year.
know. I
Yeah,
know. I
we're gonna do it. We're
know.
yeah, that was a good bit. We had a good run, but I think we're gonna we sunset that one officially last year. So we're gonna try and find you some other time. But we'll be
Oh,
there for
beautiful.
sure because we'll definitely want to talk about the Para Jose Seijas and other projects that you've got coming. So we'll see you here in a couple of months, Enrique. For everyone out there, we appreciate those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming, like I said. As always, I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. He's Enrique Seijas of Matilde Cigars. And guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Peace out, guys. My friend, always a pleasure. Rob life, guys. Okay, talk to you offline. Always a pleasure. I'm getting the fuck out of here to sleep.